And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I be your host, Dan, aka smAsho. Today we're talking dark matter. Is it a solar axion or a tritium radiation? Fake science, hysteria, and COVID-19. First, we're going to talk about the sun. There is the 171 angstroms view. We see some active regions rising in the northeast. Sunspot 2765 setting nearly out of sight now. In the southwest. And by the way, we are streaming live to Twitch. If you haven't subscribed over there, it's twitch.tv/smAsho. And we typically use that forum, that website, because it's such a good platform for live streaming. Next, looking at 94 angstroms, a different ionized state of iron. And I apologize for leaving my ringer on, folks. I was getting information that I was streaming live to Twitch. Well, thanks very much. And now my junkware Google Droid phone is just bound up like somebody who's eating only cheese. Anyway, there's a 48-hour view in 94 angstroms from the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. No sunspots. And we see pretty weak activity here. Let's take a look at the fields, which are not particularly organized. There you go. That active region there in the northeast is not a sunspot. Here's the fade to 304 angstroms. Some small filamentary activity around the limbs. Here's the southern area. This is a one-day video. And allow me to get off the screen. And you see that filament there in the southwest. Little bit of activity there. No coronal mass ejections or anything like that. Let's take a look at the northern regions. The North Polar region. And there's that one-day video. A little bit of bright spots forming there around the solar polar region. Again, no sunspots, pretty weak activity overall. Let's look at some more data. X-ray flux is totally flatlined. No surprises there, as we see no sunspots right now. And let's talk about the 10.7 centimeter radio flux for a quick moment. The 2800 megahertz solar radio emission is a good proxy for sunspot number. Now, we use a bunch of different things to determine solar activity, whether it's the sunspot number, or whether it's the electron flux, or whether it's the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, the 245 megahertz radio flux, total solar irradiance, X-rays, lots of different meterings of what the sun is doing. So don't get fixated on any one particular thing. The current state of the 10.7 centimeter radio flux is at 68 solar flux units. And if you want to read more about it, check out the nrc.canada.ca page. Do a search for 10.7, and you'll learn about solar weather monitoring, which was this feature. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux was discovered in 1947 using some old World War II radio equipment up in Canada, and Canada is still monitoring it now. The Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard is probably the best place to look at it now. And you can actually zoom in on this, which is very nice. And there you can see the current state of affairs. We are in a solar minimum that is not quite as minimal as the last one, where the sun was slightly more flatlined back around 2009. Again, current solar radio flux, the 10.7 centimeter variety, otherwise known as the 2800 megahertz radio flux at 68. What are you doing for your last full day of spring, or your last full day of fall, as winter approaches in the south and summer approaches in the north? The solstice is only 1.5 days away from when we made the video. So what will you be doing at the time of the solstice? We'll be streaming live to Twitch, to Facebook, and to YouTube. So join us for our Solstice Stream 2020, and perhaps give us a ring on the smAsho VoIP line. Here's what's going on with that. And just to give you a demonstration, here's me calling myself. And now let's make some interesting special effects. Anyway, give us a call on the smAsho VoIP line. It's country code +1, area code 610-936-9799. Give us a call, especially during the Solstice stream. We'll be taking calls and playing them through the system. Here's some more data for you. The proton flux is totally flatlined, no surprises there. Here's some more data for you. The location of things like planets in the solar system, as there's a huge pileup. All the planets are on one side of the sun right now. Check it out. Here's where things will be in a week. And there'll be a new moon right at the same time as the solstice, as well as a ring of fire eclipse visible in some parts of the world, not where I'm located. And next we're at in-the-sky.org. Looking at their sky chart. It's 4:32 when I made the video, when I streamed it to Twitch. Do you know where your constellations are? Today's featured star is Vega, one of the summer triangle, which also includes Arcturus, not Arcturus. It includes Altair and Deneb. And there's Altair. So there's Altair, Deneb, and Vega, the three stars of the summer triangle. If you get up before dawn, you should be able to see Mars and the moon. And even Venus will rise with the sun. Check it out. You'll also see Jupiter and Saturn making an appearance if you're up before dawn. And okay, now the sun is rising before Venus, so you're not going to be able to see it in the morning, but you'll be able to see it in the evening. So check out Venus when it's in this location. It's always a delight. The third brightest object in the sky after only the sun and the moon. Next, we're going to talk cosmology for a quick moment during another cosmology segment. And thanks for tuning in, by the way. Today we're going to look at all of the objects on the Neil Gorell Swift Bat Observatory, designated as X3. So the Swift Bat hard X-ray transient monitor monitors a lot of different sources. And let's see here. They're up to 1,026 sources. Let's take a look at the transients from everything titled X3. So first of all, there's the Large Magellanic Cloud X3, which is a BH. And I'm not sure what a BH is, but there are the X-ray emissions from the BH. Fairly steady at that. Large Magellanic Cloud X3. Small Magellanic Cloud X3. What the heck happened here? All right. Small Magellanic Cloud X3 is a high-mass X-ray binary, similar to Deneb, I suppose. There are the transients. We did see a very large transient out of it in, looks like 2015 there. Small Magellanic Cloud X3. There's that. We already saw the Large Magellanic Cloud X3, the BH object. Next, Centaurus X3, a high-mass X-ray binary / neutron star. And this has got a completely different emission profile than most other objects. Check it out. Looks like flames. And yeah. It's Centaurus X3, and it's quite irregular in its emissions. No real cyclic pattern to be shown there. Next, GX9+1, otherwise known as Sagittarius X3, a low-mass X-ray binary / neutron star. There are the emissions from that. Nothing too exciting there, although it did shut down momentarily, although we don't see any historic shutdowns here in the multi-year graph. And lastly, Cygnus X3, otherwise known as Deneb, the star we were just looking at on the star chart. There are the X-ray emissions from that, and it has sunk back down into quiescent state. You can see most of the emissions here are right on the 0 line, which is way down here on the historic chart, which goes all the way back to 2005. If you want to monitor transients yourself, these are X-ray emissions from various known sources at the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory. Just type in Neil Gorell Swift Observatory or Swift/BAT X-ray monitor and you'll find it. Let's talk about dark matter, how nobody's found any. And most astronomers, most mainstream astronomers at least, are convinced that dark matter makes up between 70 and 95% of the entire mass of the universe, which is totally ridiculous. So they've built this extremely sophisticated Xenon 1T detector inside a mountainside in Italy, and they've made a discovery that they weren't expecting. What might that discovery be? Well, that discovery would be either a solar axion or radiation from radioactive water known as tritium, located in their, quote, ultra pure and, quote, water tank. So in any case, guess what they didn't find? Dark matter. Is that a surprise to you? Please leave a comment. Let us know your theories about dark matter. While people hallucinate looking for things that aren't there, as opposed to coming up with real physics to explain what we see in cosmology. The reason we put up this article is because Deneb is a very interesting object, to say the least, as it's one of the only known cosmic ray sources as far as a point source goes, and Deneb was found in a similar fashion under 1,000 feet of granite in Minnesota. They discovered its 4.8-hour periodicity and went, what? How is this signal making it all the way through 1,000 feet of granite? We put the detector down here to detect nuclear weapons being detonated on Earth, and we're getting this 4.8-hour periodicity. It's how Deneb was discovered as a massive X-ray binary in the first place, and how it was figured out to be a cosmic ray point source. In any case, they didn't find any dark matter. Much luck to you there at the Xenon 1T detector. Let's talk about some Hubble images. Some stars gone haywire. Oh my God, they've gone haywire. Check it out. So here we've got the Butterfly Nebula, as well as young planetary nebula NGC 6302. I'm sorry, NGC 7027. As the Butterfly Nebula 6302. Some more images here. It looks like some flames out there in space. If you want to read this article, it's on scitechdaily.com. My favorite science publication. It's official. And of course, they do print the occasional sharticle, but doesn't every science publication. And basically this sort of behavior, once again, completely conflicts with the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, the lifespan of stars and so on. Does not appear to be at all what mainstream astronomy would purport it to be. And so this is always interesting. And we see a great image here, a great pan from Hubble. I'm going to play that for you real quick. And don't try to copyright strike me, YouTube, because we talk cosmology every day, and I really wish your software would work. But it doesn't, so I'll just leave it in this windowed mode. Let's start that over from the beginning. And I'm going to have to press pause here. So, contrary to what a lot of people might think, there's a lot of people, especially electric universe types, that believe that there is a filament that's traveling like this all the way to another star or galaxy into the poloidal fields. The problem is that some people have this thing completely skewed. In other words, they don't understand that the toroid field is like this, like the sun's B field. There's the toroid field, and the poloid field is like this. And the poloid fields are what cause the toroid field to exist. So this isn't surprising very much to people who sort of understand spherical magnetohydrodynamics in space. But NGC 6302 is an interesting one, to say the least. So perhaps check that out. Now this one here is a little weirder. But I would note that we've got these shells of iron in this one. It's very interesting in terms of the way the heavy elements are formed, as I don't necessarily believe that they form in the cores of stars, but there is lots of evidence that they form on the surfaces of stars. And let's move on to data now that we've finished the cosmology segment. The KP index is currently at 2. And again, solar minimum is basically the current state of conditions. Now, one thing we did see is we saw a large earthquake yesterday, which happened right before 1 p.m. UT, which would be right here. Now, you may find YouTube channels that are trying to suggest that some sort of change in solar activity had something to do with this, and you can see there is absolutely no change in solar activity signal in terms of the solar wind, because I don't know. I don't know where this is coming from. The idea that changes in this cause earthquakes to large earthquakes to happen. I don't see it. It sounds like ridiculous nonsense. So back up your nonsense with some proof. Other YouTube channels. So the current state of affair with the solar wind is phi angle still looking coronal wholly. So this is all coronal hole magnetic connection in here, as well as over here. And there is a coronal hole facing the Earth. It's pretty small. Current phi angle is at 150 degrees. Current solar wind density 10.4. 10.4? 10.4 protons per cubic centimeter, and the solar wind speed is at 311 kilometers a second. Next, looking at the geospace magnetosphere movies to show you the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. It's pretty uneventful right now, as we have a fairly steady solar wind at a slightly elevated density and a very low velocity. Geospace looking pretty normal based on those parameters. Nothing too exciting happening in the magnetic realm. Next, looking at ground geospace magnetic perturbations, coming a little closer to home here to show you not many perturbations, although we are living through a geomagnetic excursion. We've got a geomagnetic pole over northern Canada and another geomagnetic pole over Siberia, and the net pole somewhere out here east of Greenland, and the south pole down here in the southern Indian Ocean off the southeast from Australia. Who knew? Anybody who's watched the channel probably knew that we've got 3 geomagnetic poles right now, 2 in the north and 1 in the south, which has crept off of the Antarctic continent. Next, look at the GOES magnetometer to show you all of these spikes, which are exactly what we forecasted yesterday based on looking at the Gong 2 data. No surprise there. Let's figure out which polarity current sheet the Earth is currently in. First, we're going to look at the line of sight field plot, and the B field has pretty much stopped its wobbles. The B field shown here in blue. Let's move on to the top view ecliptic plane field plot, and this one is going to show us in the North Pole current sheet, shown here in green. And you see the way these fields are starting to split up now. That's looking like some real solar activity, and for that, we thank you. This could change at any time with absolutely no warning. That's what the magnetic environment can do. The data is 1 hour and 57 minutes old. And don't be surprised if we snap right back into the South Pole current sheet at any time today. And the magnetometer is going to continue to look spiky at least over the next 24 hours, probably more like 48. Let that play through one more time and then move on to look at electrons. There's the current state of electrons, and talk about a ramp down. It's a tangential ramp down of electron flux, folks. And we don't expect to see any warning levels once again today with that elevated solar wind density, despite that very low solar wind speed. We did come up off the floor a little bit. Some of the higher measurements that we've seen in the past several weeks actually happened yesterday. And we see some small anomalies here in the total electron content over the Central Pacific Ocean as well as over the Caribbean. So you see at this point right here, you can see some excess electrons there off the coast of Baja California. And then through here you see some excess electrons over the Caribbean. Next, looking at just the ionosphere, as the last pane showed us the entire air column from the thermosphere down to the ionosphere. This is just the ionosphere, and it is quite anomalous right now, very wobbly looking, and quite abnormal, actually. Here's the latest frame. That is at 8:30 UT, and that's looking pretty normal on the sun side, pretty charged up on the nighttime side. And yesterday we saw a 7.4 magnitude quake northeast of the North Island of New Zealand. So that 7.4 quake, that's where it was located. Does not appear to have generated any sort of tsunami warnings, watches, advisory, or threats based on historic data and the lack of observational evidence of a tsunami. Let's check out the list, as it's probably going to include quite a few aftershocks. So there's that 7.4, pretty much just came out of nowhere. Let me see if there's any pre-shocks there. Doesn't really look like it. And again, no tsunamis were known to be generated from that as far as I know. So that came in at 12:49 UT. And about an hour and a half later, we saw a very, very deep quake to the northwest of that, south of the Fiji Islands. It's a 4.9 magnitude at over 600 kilometers depth. Let's just take a quick look at the location of that one. A fairly featureless portion of the ocean bottom, and about equidistant between the North Island of New Zealand and Fiji. And let's get up the list here, as there are quite a few quakes on the daily report. And we're just going to let this scroll. So we are still in a major earthquake drought, folks, despite that 7.4 magnitude quake kicking off. Here's a deep quake in western South America, one of the world's capitals for deep quakes, as well as another deep quake at Tonga. And let's look at volcanoes next. Semeru's back to exploding. Produced a 14,000 foot ash plume to Kono, flight level 7,000 there. Veniaminoff on the Alaskan Peninsula has showed some occasional earthquakes, and while seismic activity typically precedes eruptive activity at that volcano, it does not mean an eruption will occur. Popocatépetl activity remains high there. It's producing some dense, dark ash plumes up to a flight level of 20,000. Sangay exploding, flight level 19,000 there. Revenador not observed in terms of volcanic ash. Please don't build a campsite on the lower slopes of Revenador, because it could murder you. Sabancaya, weak volcanic emissions there, and no eruptions at Laguna del Maule in central Chile. No eruption. Please do not attempt to pole vault the caldera. It could erupt. And let's talk about cheddar and fake news and cheddar. Cheddar, fake news. Cheddar and fake news and science. Cheddar. Can you say cheddar? It's spelled C-H-I-D-A. Tell your friends, tell your foes how to say cheddar. Cheddar. It's a cheap plastic virus made in cheddar. Tom Wolfe's brain was made in cheddar, which is why it doesn't function and why he should be impeached. Hey, Tom Wolfe, shove your lockdowns, shove your masks. In fact, shove your Physician General, former NCAA linebacker Dr. Rachel Levine. We hope to send you off on your final term with a kick in the you-know-what, because you, sir, are Pennsylvania's top COVIDiot, and you, along with your Physician General, Dr. Rachel Levine, are Pennsylvania's top COVIDiots. That'll be the word of the year. Speaking of COVIDiots, Joe Biden and Amy Klobuchar have decided that Joe Biden needs, wait for it, a woman of color as his VP running mate. I don't know if that's racism against whites by Amy Klobuchar, Way to cash in your white guilt, Amy Klobuchar. Wow, what have you rambled about today? Congratulations on withdrawing from... And just like that, Amy, racism is cured. Whether you've posted a black square or whether you've acted like Aaron Paul and said, I take responsibility for things that I had nothing to do with. By the way, Aunt Jemima was well paid for her likeness on that bottle. Let's talk about the smAshomash.com/forum. Well, we've got a lengthy section on coronavirus. It's over 30 pages long. We started covering it on January 23rd. And guess what I said? The first thing I ever put on the forum about it. Is it dangerous? Not particularly for healthy people. What are they and where did they come from? Well, maybe you've read the forum. It creates a timeline on our own servers, which will not be edited by hacks in big tech. So perhaps just, I don't know, just skip forward to page 25 just to see what's going on that day. How deadly was it according to April 20th? According to Stanford study? Well, it raises as many questions as answers. What a surprise. Have you noticed some conflicting propagandistic data about COVID-19, coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2? Well, we've got all the conflicting data on the site. And have you also noticed that big tech has been, I don't know, perpetuating lies, total nonsense, BS, having a political agenda, behaving as both a publisher and a platform? Hey, Google, Facebook, Apple, and Twitter, you can't break the internet, but the internet can break you. So you may want to, change your behavior before your boards of directors go to jail for misleading your shareholders. Were you aware that Google is well, you get the idea. We have a whole section about it, a whole forum thread about Google specifically. It's now over 3 pages long. And we just updated it yesterday, I think. There you go. Styx Hexenhammer agrees. Ted Cruz agrees. And if you want to see those videos, they're all linked at smAshomash.com/forum. Let's talk about hysteria and nonsense, the new driving force of politics. Do you feel like you're living in 1984? Did you notice that we made a video on YouTube which got demonetized on March 19th and now it's only on BitChute? Oh yeah, that's right, folks. BitChute.com/smAshomash has exclusive content, such as our video from March 19th about hydroxychloroquine. It's nearly at 900 views now. So if you weren't aware, maybe go watch that. And have you noticed that there's been like report after report where, hydroxychloroquine's a cure. Hydroxychloroquine's not a cure. Trump's taken hydroxychloroquine, therefore it mustn't work. Trump's taken hydroxychloroquine, therefore it must work. Wow. Gee, what's going on with all the propaganda on the internet? Gee, would you say the whole charade is tragic? I would say so. Anyway, science itself has become politicized, and I'm pretty much fed up with it. Part of the reason why we started making the smAshomash in the first place was back in 2017 when I noticed all kinds of lies, nonsense, propaganda all over the internet. And it's perpetuated by big tech companies who do stuff like ban Zero Head from Twitter and then say, whoops, sorry, and they demonetize people's videos, and they make sure that the most idiotic content gets the most views on YouTube. So thanks, and great job, big tech and media. So thanks, media, thanks, big tech. You are the sewer of information. Speaking of sewers, were you aware that COVID components show up in your poop? Well, New Haven, Connecticut and Carmel, Indiana both say sewage data is the canary in the coal mine, as your poop can detect COVID before your nostril can or something. So I don't know if you want to read that. It's on The Verge. I don't care. What about the spike in cases? Oh, gee, well, guess what? Hospitalization data shows no indication of a second wave. Now, we've stopped updating smAshomash.com/forums section about coronavirus because it's an irrelevant story. And it's basically got the same implications as the flu. It's much less deadly for children and a little more deadly for senior citizens. Really, everybody ought to be focusing on our cardiovascular health, ways to prevent adult onset diabetes and things like that. But no! Orange man bad. Coronavirus is going to kill you. Rioting is perfectly fine. Make sure you're wearing a mask while you burn down a building. Make sure you're socially distanced while you're looting a store. That's perfectly fine. But protesting because the government has unconstitutionally locked down your state, that's really deadly. Oh no, you're gonna kill grandma. What a joke. Let's talk about virtue signaling. Taking down a flag, silencing people with whom you don't agree, especially through violence and terrorism, which is fascism, by the way. Taking down a statue, rewriting history, and changing your branding in this ridiculous fashion, like Aunt Jemima, are all examples of mental slavery. The key to speech with which you don't agree is more in-depth discussions. Doing this symbolic nonsense accomplishes one thing. It more deeply ingrains racism and bigotry of all kinds. In the real world, we destroy evil by casting light on it, not by attempting to hide it away. Let's talk about some other Instagram posts. If you don't follow me on Instagram, it's instagram.com/smAsho. You'll get some behind-the-scenes stuff. Gee, who would have guessed that there's an inflation when the Federal Reserve has eliminated the reserve requirements in U.S. banking? Now, the bank used to have to keep $1 on reserve for every 10 that you deposit. Guess how much it has to keep now, folks? Zero, which means we have no idea and no way of determining what the actual inflation numbers are. Good luck using consumer price information for it, because that is not and has never been accurate. Let's cancel the Gorton's fisherman. Now, would you trust a guy like that? Look at him. He's looking off to his right. Obviously, he's a right-winger. Look at the white lettering. Look at his white privilege. Good God. Do you trust the Gorton's fisherman? Well, hell no. Not with that white lettering and stuff. I mean, imagine how much oppression of fish of color this racism and speciesism fraught brand could possibly have. Good God, get rid of the Gorton's fisherman and replace them with, I don't know, the Gorton's lesbian fisherwoman of color. Shout out to Robert Kennedy Jr. Thank goodness. MomsAgainstFluoridation.org. Go get involved with that, as there's only like 2 countries in the whole world that idiotically fluoridate our water. One of the dumbest ideas ever. Support that. We've re-uploaded the meme of Pennsylvania's top COVIDiots. This is former NCAA linebacker Dr. Rachel Levine, and this is Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf. Please sign any petitions you see to get rid of these 2 total COVIDiots. Also, let's cancel brawny paper towels. Cancel and boycott brawny. I mean, geez, like, it's a symbol of white tyranny. I mean, yeah, the paper towels are thirsty AF, but you'll never make yourself clean enough to be as white as the cover model, will you? Boycott brawny, because it's a symbol of your white privilege no matter how uninvolved in racism you are. You're better off having a soiled residence than using this oppression in symbolic absorbent paper form. Right? Quicker picker-upper at Bounty Paper Towels? Just kidding, folks. I propose the rebranding of Aunt Jemima become Antifa. What say you? Shout out to whoever made that. Now, if you're wondering what's on my hat, it's a sponsor, Park Tool. And shout out to Park Tool. We'll be reaching out to you in a month or so because we need some stuff. And Park Tool is one of these companies that makes very specific tools for high-end bicycles. If you weren't aware, it's the industry leader. And we've been involved with Park for over a decade here. I'm a huge proponent of their chain cleaning device, which is this one right here, the CM5.3, which I actually had something to do with the engineering of that, I believe. So yeah, shout out to Park Tool. And remember, when you're working on bikes, use the correct tools, because if you don't, you could destroy it. Now, you may not want to work on bikes, period. Part of the reason why I ride for a bike shop is because I am a hack mechanic. So I'm still sporting a hand injury, which is nearly 2 weeks old now, which I suffered while mounting a tire. So if you don't know how to work on your bike, the higher end it is, the more likely it is you should create a service contract with your local bike shop. Support your local bike shop. Ours is the Velo Shop. Shout out to Becky. What are you doing Sunday? Let's do another ride. On that note, let's talk about Mansa. Allow me to vanish and tell you that making America not suck again is up to you. If you'd like to go out and burn down your town, feel free. That's going to make America suck more, and it's not going to solve jack shh. It's going to just cause more problems. It's not going to cure racism. Don't be a complete COVIDiot. Make America not suck again. Now we've moved on to more data. It's value-added services. We're now at windy.com, who, by the way, has a great mobile app, and we're letting the pressure cells advance into tomorrow's GFS forecast. Let's see where things will be only 5 hours before the solstice tomorrow on Saturday, June 20th. There's where things will be at noon my time, and I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania for all you new viewers. Thanks for tuning in. Next, looking at lightning maps, and we see quite a lot of lightning. Let's check out the central U.S. and give somebody a shout out because, hey, Wichita, there's thunder rolling in, and you are straight up surrounded. Wichita, Kansas, getting struck hard. Next time you hear thunder, check out lightningmaps.org. You can actually forecast thunder, freak out your foes, impress your friends. And I'm back. Before we look at the U.S. Doppler radar map, I'd like to once again thank all of our viewers. Whether you're new, whether you're viewing live, or whether you're viewing Memorex, we greatly appreciate it. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar map, and we see a significant string of quite heavy-looking, nasty thunderstorms there over southern Kansas. Hopefully nobody is being taken to Oz while we make the video. Next, looking at nullschool.net's jet streams. We're looking at flight level 25,000 and talk about an incoherent jet stream. Look at the flow of the northern jet stream. That is hardly a jet stream. It is all over the place. On the last, in the northern hemisphere, the final full day of spring. Let us know your summer plans. We've got jet streams going the wrong direction, folks, on all kinds of weird stuff. Check it out. Extreme meridional jet stream flow both hemispheres, as well as equatorial air moving east to west. If you think that's weird, it's true. It's true. Next, looking at the water vapor maps for Europe and Africa, I would note this giant plume of dust starting to make its way from Africa across the Atlantic Ocean, headed toward the Caribbean and indeed the U.S. A large string of dry air. And next, looking at the water vapor maps for Oceania and the Far East. Here's a water vapor map for the U.S. And it looks like these heavy storms are stagnating, actually, as there's not very much of a coherent jet stream. The jet stream looks like it's coming way down like this. And let's take a look at that location there over Kansas, as that is the hot spot. Again, Wichita is surrounded, and it's probably going to stagnate for a while. That's going to be there for a while, folks. And the water vapor map gives you good insight into that when the Doppler radar doesn't show it. And if you're flying a plane across these areas, you're going to see some significant turbulence, as the air viscosity for these dry areas is much higher, since atmospheric nitrogen is more massive than water vapor. Thanks for flying, American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the smash plane at all times. We don't want dismemberment or decapitations to happen. And thanks, Smash Team, whether you're sharing on your social media, whether you're commenting because you're a friend or a foe or a neutral, we appreciate it. Please consider supporting the channel via the links below the description, like our patrons do. They're a real source of funding for the content. Thanks, patrons, for helping to keep the content free, increasing the likelihood that we won't make all the videos just private and allow them only to be seen by people who pay for it. Whether you're an associate or an assistant producer, thanks, patrons. Thanks, subscribe stars. There are also ways to support us via the links below the video, such as PayPal for one-time donors. And thanks to our one-time donors. such as Renee, I believe is the latest one. Cheers. Here's this active region. We don't see any dark umbrae, therefore it is not a sunspot. Let's look at the magnetic fields in the colorized magnetogram. There's the latest refresh. And here's the field scenario for that cycle 25 plage. I would note that it's being led by North Pole polarity, and it's in the north hemisphere of the sun, which makes it a cycle 25 activity, which is basically all we've been seeing. And let's close things out with one final view here. How about the 131 angstroms? Now this one takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2, a feature only available in 131 and 94 angstroms, which is the green one that we showed earlier. Allow me to vanish. As this loads, please bear with it. The SDO is a little bit slow today, folks. Lots of people looking at the sun, I guess. And I apologize for the slow load time. Just let it go through. It'll all be worth it in a couple seconds here. Here we go. Now it's fully loaded. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Again, visit us on social media. Get involved, comment, share, etc. We've got our content on so many different social media platforms that I can't rattle them off, but there are a lot. They're all listed below the video in the description. Please support us, increase the likelihood that these videos will remain free, as we increase the probability that you will remain free, as the more people that watch the content, the less mental slavery will be going on. So again, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Whether you viewed it live or whether you viewed it Memorex, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiocy absent from your multiverse.